So this is part two of that video of my experience of Lineage teachers, experience stories, etc. And the first one just cut off, ran out of memory. So I'm doing a part two, unanticipated. But the second piece that I did right after my retreat or my intensive with Rich Litvin and working with Rich Litvin is in October of 2016. I went on a 7-day silent meditation retreat with a teacher named Adyashanti, and it was in upstate New York. And something really profound happened about 5 days in, where suddenly the voice in my head just went silent. I went to sleep with the normal chatter. I mean, it had slowed down a little bit, but I woke up with nothing. I could kind of make the voice appear. I could ask, hey, where's the voice? But I'd say for the better part of 2 days, it was just not there, and I was wondering what to make of that. I was wondering if that was somehow enlightenment, if I had somehow kind of broken through to my whatever pure essence, whatever. And it became clear to me that whatever that it was, that wasn't quite it. But wow, it was a huge opening. And as I think about, continuations and getting more into the experience, my own experience of this insight, this understanding, it was at that point that I was beginning to pursue a coaching practice full time. It was at that point that it had become apparent to me that I was not going to go back into the corporate world, that I was going to move across the country from Washington, D.C. to Colorado, and all that entailed for me and for Jen and for Lucas and for our older kids who are essentially being left behind. It was a lot that year, and I was beginning to have a better understanding of who I was going to be working with and beginning to get some paying clients. That was a slow process. And a lot of it, as I think back on it, was, on the one hand, I had this understanding, and on the other hand, it wasn't grounded enough for me to say, this is what I do with people. I felt like I kind of needed to hide the spirituality piece of what I did. Although people definitely got it, because the people who were coming to me were people who generally had some kind of at least spiritual curiosity, if not explicit spiritual practice. But there was always this idea of maybe the inner work was a faster way to get to the outer goal, but there was still this notion of an outer goal, and that outer goal looking real and solid. And so I began to get clients, but I won't say it was a struggle. I mean, I think I was helping people, but it really wasn't until July of last year. So, July of 2021, where it all kind of came together. And the way that came together for me was I was listening to a podcast. A conversation between a guy named Sam Harris, who has this app called Waking Up. He's written a lot about meditation. I think of him as kind of an agnostic meditation student. I mean, on the one hand, I wouldn't consider him to be religious or even spiritual in any kind of conventional sense. On the other hand, he's seen some things. And so he's very curious about exploring that from this kind of non-doctrinal, non-dogmatic, scientific perspective. What is this? What is this capacity that we have into see a more fundamental aspect of our nature? That inside out aspect, if you will. I had seen at this point. There's a teacher who he had actually had on his show, a student of Douglas Harding. His name is escaping me right now, but it's Douglas Harding wrote a book called On Having No Head, and it was this pointing to the fact that something's experiencing our life. You know, some traditions call it the witness, but you can get a really visceral experience of it through these exercises that are on the website headless.org, this pointing at ourselves and trying to assess what is looking. And there is this little mini awakening that can happen when you see that. It's like, whatever that is, that's what I am, not what I'm pointing to. I encourage you to do some of those exercises and to explore in that way. Sam Harris had another guest on. It's someone, a meditation teacher who I've actually done a little bit of work with. And they were talking. And the teacher, I'm trying to remember the teacher's name right now. It'll come to me. But the teacher said something like, all we're ever doing is experiencing sensation. And in that moment, there was something far bigger than this. Looking through my eyes, looking at my hand, my wrist, the hairs on my arms. I described it to the teacher in an email I sent to him, Stephen Bodian, as waking up inside the meat suit. Like, suddenly I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not this body, I'm not this flesh, I'm not this container, I'm the experiencer of all of this. I'm the creator of all this experience, right? Like, this is just turning up moment by moment and I am experiencing it, and I'm kind of the witness, the intelligence, the experiencer, the presence. I don't know what other words to use. And it didn't last long, maybe, 30 seconds. And I just started laughing. Like, oh my gosh, what? Like, the gig is up. Like, I get the cosmic joke. I understand what everyone was pointing to. Wow, that's, And I'm sure there's more to see. I think there's always more to see. And that night, and that was actually, so that was July 7th, and July 8th is my dad's birthday. So I always kind of give credit to my dad somehow, because I woke up in the middle of the night, so this would have been past midnight into July 8th. And I just had all this energy. And every time I closed my eyes, it was like I disappeared. Every time I closed my eyes, I was the universe. And I could open my eyes and kind of be back in my bed again, and then I'd close my eyes and everything would be gone. And it probably went on for 2 hours. And that part of it will still come back in the middle of the night sometimes, where I'll just kind of lose this sense of having any kind of container around me. And from that moment on, so July of 2021, it became clear to me that everything anyone comes to me with as a coaching challenge, I want help with an executive presence, I want help with communication, I want help with being more innovative, I want help with bringing my team together, whatever it happens to be. It is a symptom of not understanding where your experience is coming from. It is a symptom of the idea that we are a separate identity that can be improved if we just give it certain knowledge and characteristics, if we give it certain exercises to do, if we practice ways of being certain ways, things like, how do you be more present? I did a video on this, presence is what's left when you stop being all those other things. Resilience, like we're made of resilience. We bounce back from things. That's part, this creativity that we're made of. It figures stuff out. You get knocked down, resilience stands you back up. You don't have to try. It just happens. And the more that someone gets that and gets that they can rely on that, the easier everything else becomes. And amazing, joyous. Not that life is without struggle or suffering or pain or sickness or death or any of that. It's all there. But it just takes on a different quality because you hang on to it in a different way. You recognize the flow of it rather than trying to engineer your own experience. And that's where I am today. Helping people explore that more and more deeply for themselves. Exploring it more and more deeply for myself. I think of it as, Michael Neal, who I've now worked with again, ironically, years after our initial kind of interesting connection. I've done programs with him for 6 months. I am part of his community. He is a valuable pointer. He talks about what he calls the infinite ladder of consciousness. And I feel like in any given situation, you and I are on this infinite ladder, and maybe I'm one rung higher, maybe two rungs higher. Depends on the day, depends on the moment. Maybe two rungs lower. We're on this infinite journey together, and just figuring out what we see and sharing that with each other. And it's so cool. So cool that I get to do that. And learn more and more, look more and more deeply into what this is and how it shows up and how it's creating our lives. And so I wanted to share that, all of that with you, in case you wanted it. If you made it through both videos, congratulations. That was a lot. And I'm sure there's more that I missed, but I think that's the essence of my experience thus far. And feel free to reach out with any questions you have. Until next time, take care. Thanks.